Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to your Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Tom Kimmerly, and I'm one of the leaders here. As some of you know, and some of you participated in last week, we had a meeting with Dr. Ascari, who didn't show up. However, it was probably for the better, because who was there was some of our congregation. Some people prayed with us, and some people talked to the architect, Scott Lyon, and the developer, Craig, from Fan Construction. Anyway, we had a nice walk of the property. We got to see the different elevations, and we're going to, basically, the back part out here will be fairly level. There'll be 2 to 3 steps down to our existing parking level. There'll be a ramp in there for those that need a ramp. And that parking lot will be completed in about 4 to 6 weeks. It'll be done with a rough surface initially. When that's done, they will start working on our existing parking lot, and that'll take another 4 weeks or so. And then they'll come in and blacktop the whole deal, so it'll all be uniform. We'll have some new parking on our entrance that we now use off of Willow Creek, because that will not be the entrance. We'll have handicap parking in front for those that need it. And I guess that's about it. If there's any other questions out there, talk to me after the service. On another note, I was over at the Yavapai Hospital yesterday and talking to the doctors and the nurses and what have you, and it was unanimous that their opinion of the coronavirus is way overblown. There's more people with the flu bug than the coronavirus. There was one person in Arizona that had coronavirus. They quarantined for a couple of weeks, and he's now cured and back among the living. So be prudent, be cautious, but do not be afraid. And you know, it's funny because my wife and I were looking at our phones this morning. My phone shows rain on and off for the next 2 weeks. Hers shows rain tomorrow. So it's like the news. You don't know what's right or what's wrong. When God wants it to rain, it'll rain. And so the only other thing I want to remind everybody is Cecilia is going to be in town Sunday, March 15th. And so let's please support her, buy some tickets, and let's come and have a party. Thank you, and have a great day.
We are having a great day. And my name is Mel Hirsch. I am part of the practitioner corps here. And it is my honor and privilege to be your practitioner of the day. And we like to pray around here, and that's how we open things. So if it's comfortable for you, close your eyes and just reflect on all of the newness in the air and the freshness and the reality, the ultimate reality, that God, by whatever name you call it, is. And that is in charge. And all is well. We bring that into our morning. We bring that into the opening of not only our hearts, but our minds, as the love that's spoken here enlightens and moves us to the next step of each of our personal paths. For this reality, I give my full and loving thanks and allow this beautiful day to unfold. And so it is.
Good morning, everybody.
I got to admit, I was looking around for Bob
Yeah, he's with the kids.
because I was like, I'm going to trick him with God is I am, which is like 3 words, and then get him up here and have him sign that. That's from the baby pool to the deep end. Pretty cool.
Okay. So many things I'm editing out of my talk right now. My name is Reverend Kathleen Sibley. It is my joy to minister to you today. Please know that whoever you are, wherever you are, if you're here physically or online, you are entirely welcome here, just as you are and just as you are not. This center exists to provide spiritual tools that transform our personal lives and make the world a better place. And we have help with that. We do this work together. And so we have a circle of licensed professional practitioners who, as Mel said, pray and teach. They teach our accredited classes, and they are available to do prayer for you in several different ways. There's a purple form tucked into the pocket of the back of each seat, and that is a prayer request form. I'll be standing out by the box where you put it once you've filled it out after service. If you would like to experience prayer the way we do it, which is not necessarily how most people do it, please come after service, sit here in the front of the platform, and a practitioner will be with you to do what we call a 3-minute miracle. Now, the 3-minute part just means that you don't have time to tell us the entire story going all the way back to which dinosaur bit your ancestors. All we want to know, all we want to affirm with you is what is it you want to experience? What is it you want to do, be, or have? Now, you can also do this by putting in a prayer request on our website, which is www.cslprescott.org. Prescott has 2 T's. You can also, aren't there, there's a bajillion ways. The names and telephone numbers of our practitioners are on the website, in the newsletter, on the back of your bulletin, and up on the wall by the kitchen. You can call them and ask for prayer when you're in the midst of a moment, or if you find a practitioner that you feel connected to, please do know that they each have a private practice, and you can sit down with them for a full hour and just work out whatever your stumbling block has been. They can do this over the phone. Most of us can do it by Zoom. It works in a lot of different ways. And those hour-long sessions, has anyone done an hour-long session? Has anyone done as many as I have, a bajillion? Okay. Those sessions are also, if you were born in the month of March, you get a free session with the practitioner of your choice this month. Find Mel after service. He will have the bookmark that is your gift certificate with the names and telephone numbers of the practitioners who are participating in this. Now, I've said this before, I'll say it again. You can come see your minister for free anytime. Do not waste your gift certificate buying something that was already free. Many people have asked if I will do their birthday session, and the answer is always going to be yes, and you could have seen me anytime. So, I encourage you to expand your experience with our practitioners. See, there's so many right ways to be a religious science practitioner, so many right ways to experience the divine. And that is why we have this candle lighting ritual at the beginning of every service. The Center, the Center for Spiritual Living honors all faith traditions As we light a candle for the world's religions, it is to acknowledge both our multiplicity and our unity.
We light a candle for Christianity based on the teachings of Jesus the Christ, who taught the path of love, forgiveness, and healing by the presence within.
For Islam, the practice of submitting to the will of God as revealed to his prophets, peace be upon them, who taught that there is one God, creator of the heavens and the earth.
For Judaism, a community of shared laws, traditions, and family ties, which began with the covenant between Abraham and God.
For Buddhism, the middle path that ends suffering and awakens mindfulness and compassion.
For Hinduism, the path of knowledge, action, and devotion.
For the Native American traditions, those who walk the good red road and honor Mother Earth, including the people of the sun that we know as the Yavapai.
For Baha'i, the path of unity and peace.
For the goddess traditions, embracing the divine feminine as maiden, mother, and crone.
And for the science of mind, which is the philosophy of life that teaches there is a power for good in the universe and we can use it.
Thank you, ladies. And in order to add our own voices to that litany, I'll ask you to say our affirmation with me. We are here for God. Abundance and joy in everything we do. The good we seek for ourselves is what we desire for all people everywhere. And so it is.
Love that heals. Love that sets me free. I invite you to breathe in that phrase. Love that sets me free. Free from that which would separate us from our connection with the divine as we understand it. It is here, it has always been here, it is here now, and it shall always be at the center and circumference of every being in this room and beyond to the greater community, and indeed to anyone in the world who chooses it. For that reality of this life, I offer our full and loving gratitude, and allow this day to so beautifully unfold, and masculine and feminine, and most of all, as God's kids. And so it is.
Good morning, everyone, by the way. I didn't even say good morning. I don't know what to say. I love our soloists today. I love our soloists today. This is Stephy Griffin. She brought along her friend Jenny to sing backups, and you all are in for a treat. Just so you know, Stephy is one of the busiest musicians in town, and she has, basically, if you go out any night of the week and in any place playing live music, there is a chance she will be the one playing. What is it? Today at the Birdcage, correct? So this is an hors d'oeuvre for that. If you want to make it down to the Birdcage, she'll be there. Later in the month, she's at Hasayampa, and then she goes down to Tucson, so she's on tour. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephy Griffin and her friend Jenny.
Thanks for having me back again so soon. This first one is an original song. Thought it was fitting for today, so hope you like it. self. When I lost myself, self. When I lost myself, you were my eyes. You were my eyes. Voice. When I lost my voice. Voice. When I lost my voice. You were my song. You were my song. Way. When I lost my way. Way. When I lost my way. You were my guide. You were my guide. Back home. Back home.
So, Steph, I have to ask, will both of you be at the birdcage this afternoon?
Full band with Drew Hall, too.
Ooh, with Drew Hall. We know him. I think we must be the only spiritual center or church I have ever been in that actually tells you to go to the bars after Sunday service. I'm not going to take that as a commentary on your experience of listening to me talk. Oh my goodness, has anyone had Spirit guide them back home when they completely had no clue what they were doing? Had the experience of Spirit working through them when they were just voiceless and pathless and not sure what was going on? Just me, huh? There were times I actually crossed the country doing it that way, because I couldn't find the map again. So today we're talking about a different kind of map, a different kind of guide, and a different way of looking at the divine. Because in truth, this month we are actually, theoretically, diving into the divine feminine. And I will say that these are the themes and the subjects that all of the Centers for Spiritual Living have the option of working with. And then we're given titles and everything, just, starting points with which to get to our talk. And as I sat there with this particular question about the Holy Reimagined, where what I know they were doing was saying, let's reimagine the divine with not just a masculine side, but a feminine side. Not male and female, but masculine and feminine. And for those of you who don't know, there's a great call going on to do a version of Science of Mind that is gender neutral. Rather than the old-fashioned language that we have right now that uses he when it means males and females. Because if you think about it, you've never heard, men since the beginning of time have had real trouble in childbirth. Think about it. Men doesn't actually mean men and women. It means, when we comes right down to it, it means men. And so there are groups of people who want to see the Science of Mind textbook not gotten rid of as it is, but added to with another version. I don't have any heat either way. I think it's great. I also don't need it personally. But there is something to be said for looking at how we think of God, how we imagine the divine. In imagining, we make something into an image. We're said in the Judeo-Christian tradition that we are made in the image and likeness of the divine. Well, that's interesting because when you read into that old creation story that you will find in Genesis, you'll find 2 of them in Genesis, but let's ignore that for now. The word for God is Elohim. Elohim is actually based on the Hebrew word Eloah. I keep wanting to say aloha, and that's not right. That word, Eloah, is distinctly feminine in Hebrew. And then they add the I am, which makes it a plural masculine. So what they're doing grammatically is totally messing with our heads and gender bending the divine. There's nothing wrong with that. I think what they were trying to point to is God is neither masculine nor feminine. God is masculine and feminine, both and neither. The divine is something above and beyond that which we can have an image of, much less assign a gender identity to. And so, as we go forward in time, I'm looking at the Judeo-Christian tradition, and I get to Moses. Moses, who never wanted to be Moses in the first place. He sees the burning bush. He gets told he's got to go down and have a chat with Pharaoh. He says, dude, I have a speech impediment. I don't want to do public speaking. God says, it's okay. I'll send Aaron with you. And so I can just imagine Moses being followed by all of the Israelites he had just freed from slavery going, go talk to Pharaoh, they said. It'll be fun, they said. You'll have a good time, he said, she said. So at one point, Moses, in one of the times he goes to speak to God directly, he goes up Mount Sinai, and he is having a conversation with the divine that is so uplifting and so powerful that sometimes he had to wear a veil over his face afterwards because he was shining so brightly he would hurt people's eyes. So he's up there doing his thing. He has been obedient. He got up from his cushy little life, went back to a place where he was wanted for murder, brought all of these whiny Israelites. I've had ministers tell me they have difficult congregations, and I always point them back to them. They complained about the food. They complained about, where are we going to get the water? They complained about everything. And so even God got a little annoyed and said, no, this was a mistake. We're just going to X this one out and start over. Moses had to calm him down. No, we've come this far. Let's see what we can do. Well, while Moses is up on Mount Sinai having this conversation with God, Aaron, his bestest buddy, is down with the Israelites who are sick and tired of this God they cannot see themselves. And so Aaron says, okay, give me your jewelry, we'll melt it down. They create the golden calf. And they begin to praise and worship it in the same way they had Elohim. Because human beings want something we can touch and feel and lean on in that way. This is not me bashing people who disappeared in the desert, 5,000 years ago now? This is me saying this is the journey of our souls. Each and every one of us does this. And here's poor Moses coming down with these great big tablets with the 10 Commandments, or if you're Charlton Heston, 10 Commandments. It wasn't Charlton, it was somebody else, but it was still funny. Mel Brooks, thank you. Who could mistake Charlton Heston for Mel Brooks? I will see you at the birdcage after this. So he comes down, he's got these 10 Commandments, and they're kneeling to this golden calf. He's like, you people! Because we have a need, as much as we have that part of us that is Moses, and knows we can sit and chat and have tea with the ultimate divine, we are also those people who were scared and walking across a desert for 40 years, wandering around in the desert. There wasn't anyone to ask directions from. You know, you go to Google Maps and it tries to walk you off a ledge. This is what we as humans do. We try and make God in our image, male or female. Now, I want you to think about that question. Is the divine male or female? There are actually people who will go to war over this question. And I invite you to think of it this way. Which is more important, breathing in or breathing out? I'll let you work on that for a second. Which one's more important, do you think? We have, thank God, evolved to a point where we are starting to recognize that a lot of our either-or questions are actually answered with both and. It's not either breathing in or breathing out. It's both breathing in and out. Anyone with asthma will tell you that breathing out is really important. And when you can't do it, it's not fun. And so I invite you to think about this as divine is both masculine and feminine and something beyond. We play the same game with the idea of, is the divine right here, right now in form? Like as in the goddess tradition, where every nature tradition, where every plant, rock, and tree is one of the faces of God, or are the deists correct, that God is like a watchmaker who created this machine, wound it up, and then wandered off somewhere and is not paying attention. And eventually we're just going to wind down. It's both and. It's not either or. God is both here now in every cell of your physical body and something above and beyond that we can't even describe because it doesn't fit into words. Now, the Hindus have a different way of handling this. They have this thing, this way of being in the world. They actually do not have a deity. They have millions of them. And they fit together like puzzle pieces, and each one is one of the faces of God. Well, you say, so who's in charge? Because, Western folks, we need to have that hierarchy. They have what's called a trimurti. And so you have Brahma, who is married to Saraswati, Brahma the creator, married to wisdom. You have Vishnu, who kind of keeps things going and is helped by his divine feminine counterpart, Lakshmi, who is the goddess of fortune and good luck, which, if you're trying to keep things going, you need some good fortune going on, right? And then we have Shiva, who is both the destroyer and the god of gods. The most powerful deity they have of the top three is the destroyer. And he is partnered with Parvati, who is fertility and love. Man, some of their love songs, can you imagine? It's like worse than the hair bands back in the 80s. You know, love really does stink. Boom. It's a Hindu paean to those two gods. They also understand that what they're doing is making an image of the divine. And at least what they're saying is, we have these little pinprick pictures. We're looking through these tiny little holes at the divine, and it's the filter it's coming through that tells us what we think the divine is. Because our human brains need a picture to hold on to. We think rationally, and many of you have heard me talk about this. We think rationally. What we think is requires a ratio, one thing to compare to another. So if you want to be rational, you have to be dualistic. And yet the divine exists as one infinite whole. And it's so interesting to me that whole and holy are so close, come from the same root word. And so in order to look at the holy, we must look at the whole of the holy. And our little brains boggle over that. Because the image we have been using up till now is only a small piece of the image of God. And as we do our spiritual work, what happens is our image of the divine changes. And so it starts showing up in these weird places. It's kind of like, I don't know, when your friends from the center show up at work and they're just out of context. And the different parts of your life are meeting each other in ways that you didn't expect. Have you ever walked past a mirror and wondered who the heck that was? My cats gave me a great example of this a little while ago. I got a delivery that was in a box that was about this wide. I mean, it was really not that big. It was long, but the opening was pretty narrow. Well, when my boys were kittens, they would have fit in that fine. As a matter of fact, they check every single box that comes into the house to make sure they fit. And it is worthy of their time and attention. My 20-pound cat has spent days pushing that thing around with his little face because he can't get his head in it. And this is what we do with God. Because the thing is, once we grow spiritually and our consciousness grows, it can never go back to the old little box we could fit in before. Think about that. Any work you do is yours to keep. Any stretching and growing you do, you cannot shrink back to the small self that you were before. Or I should say smaller self. So even if you feel like you're backsliding some days, it's an illusion. If you don't believe me, get your jeans from high school and try them on. You can't go back like that. The divine resists being made into an image because as we learn more about it, we see and understand more about it. As our idea of God changes, the way we pray changes. As our idea of God changes, how we see other people changes. And the bigger and closer to eternity and infinity that we can get, given our rational minds and how they work, the closer we will become to being one with the all. And some people have been blessed with experiences of that. People like Ernest Holmes, people like Krishna, people like Jesus have lived within the Christ mind. Now, they also had to come back and brush their teeth. But they had these moments where they could just be the Christ. And then they come back and try and describe it to us, and we get a little weirded out. Because the divine is a lot more verb than noun. It's a lot more activity and experience than it is a thing or an idea. I was listening to Richard Rohr talking about Paul, of all people. Never thought I'd willingly listen to something about St. Paul. But he was saying that an idea is something you can change, you can twist it, you can grow it. But an experience changes you. And so in the Centers for Spiritual Living, it's not so much that we want you to describe God all the same way. Good luck getting that to happen with us. We can't even agree on like what color stoles we should use. Somebody tried to tell the ministers we should have matching black robes for services. And it was like, who's going to be first to sew on the boa? And maybe a little lame and, some sparklies. We're all very individual expressions of the divine. It's not that I am trying to teach you to describe God or have the exact same God as me. We don't have a lot of thou shalt nots. I have a few. Thou shalt not pick on thyself. If thou is going through hell, thou shalt not stop and pitch a tent. Our other one is that we don't get to damn other people for where they are on their spiritual path. For all we know, they're ahead of us and we just don't understand. So what I try and do up here, what we try and do as a group, is each of us use these tools that are presented and have a direct experience of God. A direct one-on-one experience of God. I think that might be what the evangelical Christians are talking about when they say Jesus is their personal Lord and Savior. They're aiming for a direct experience of the divine, and just because they use different words, some of them are doing the exact same thing we are. But because we're so in need of that golden calf, we get into these fights about vocabulary. Is it my personal Lord and Savior, or is it my direct experience of God? Can my God be referred to as her, or it, or they? We're fighting over vocabulary. When the truth is, if we would sit down and then start trading tools with each other, if we would say, okay, this comes from the Jewish tradition, it works really well. Let's try it on and see how it goes for me. This comes from the Hindu tradition, out of which was born Buddhism. Let's use yoga to have an experience of the divine. Because we're all mystics in training. Each and every one of you has a place within you that knows that experience of what we're calling God, for want of a better word. Each of you has the Christ consciousness living in, through, and as you right now. And just because we don't know what name it's going by today, sometimes we miss it. Each of you is a mystic. Each of you is the Christ, the fully realized Buddha. And we get in the way, as the song says, by nitpicking and thinking, oh no, that can't be me. I'm all messed up. I have retired multiple therapists myself. Well, actually, it was my whole family. I don't blame them. But it seems to me that what Ernest said is very, very true. It has been said that we can know God only insofar as we can become God. Now, the type of knowing he's talking about is a full body knowing. It's an experience. We can only know God to the degree that we will allow it to be as us in the world. Another way of saying that is God can only do for us what we will allow God to do through us. You're already divine. You're already perfect and beloved of God, both Father and Mother. Father, Mother, God actually likes you and thinks you're adorable and is so proud of you right now. And is so concerned and so, when you see a little baby learning to walk Every adult in the room is doing this, whether they meant to or not, whether they're anywhere close to the kid or not. And whether they're watching the kid walk toward them or walk away, we all kind of have that flinch response of, let me help. To me, the divine is the one letting us hold its fingers as we learn to walk. And as we learn to walk the spiritual path, we get better and better at it, and eventually we realize we're walking it without needing to lean on any golden calf or image of the divine, because it has become us. If we can live with that holy being reimagined, that is what creates the world that works for everyone. That is what awakens humanity to its spiritual magnificence, not its spiritual truth, its spiritual magnificence. It's even more than just the truth. And in order to awaken, we go to prayer. And so join me now in consciousness. Close your eyes if you want to, or just look wherever is comfortable for you. And remember with me, God is, and God is all that there is. There is only a single power and presence that is this universe. We experience it as love. It is peace. It is joy. It is power. It is truth. It is the magnificence of the one mind in which all wisdom and knowledge resides. That one mind that we all share. And because the divine is infinite and we are within it, we are part of the divine. We are one in the one mind. Each and every beautiful being here, each and every Christ incarnate here and anywhere around the world, is one with the infinite good, and we cannot be separated. Standing in this truth, standing in this magnificent light, I allow the magnificent soul of each and every one of us to shine brightly and be seen. And in the brightness of that light, the old mistaken beliefs about brokenness, the mistaken beliefs about fear, or any idea of separateness, anything that looks like poverty or ill health, must fall away in the light of truth. And so I bless this time together as we awaken to our own spiritual magnificence and take it out into the world with us with joy and celebration. And we don't micromanage the divine. We just let that be the truth, and we move on in the world living from that. Trusting in the law to bring it into physical form, we let it be, and so it is. And so I'll ask that the ushers come forward now. Every single part of our life, every relationship is divine. And our finances are not left out of that. And so as we give our gifts, whether it's one of these saying we give online or something physical, we hold our hand over our hearts. If this is not your week to give, if this is not on your schedule today, I ask you to take your hand and put it over your heart anyway, knowing that it's the blessing that goes with your gift, which includes the gift of your consciousness that is powerful. And say with me the dedication of the offering, which is divine love. That I have all that I give and all that I receive. Thank you, life. Who'd have thunk we get a little bit gospel-y bluegrass in here? That's awesome. If you have joined us via Facebook Live, thank you for being part of our service today. If you are watching this video, please understand that there's plenty of them. And all you have to do is Google Center for Spiritual Living Prescott, and a whole bunch of them will pop up. And we just are so grateful for Spirit being fully present here and out there in the interwebs. If you are here for the first time, or if you are visiting, we'd love to welcome you. We have some information about the center, and we would invite you to take a book from our used bookstore as our thank you for being here. And if you're willing to, this is not a requirement, no one's allowed to elbow anyone right now. If you'd like to, please stand up. Just tell us your name and where you're from so that we can welcome you. Anyone? Anyone? You can have the book and the information anyway. So let us bring in our youth.
Yes. So we made windmills here, and also the explorers gave us either a unicorn horn or it's a lightsaber. Mine represents peace.
Peace. So perhaps not a lightsaber.
In Adventure Club, what is it? Explorers Club. In Explorers Club, we talked about three people that were heroes, and one of them was Braille. He invented the bumps on the
Yeah.
He invented the bumps on the wall or on paper that you put your hand on if you're blind.
Wonderful. Thank you.
In Explorers, we're talking about heroes and how teenagers can make a difference in the world. And today we picked 3 from the past. The first one was Johannes Braille, who invented the Braille system, which most people don't realize is also the system we use in computers.
Really?
Mm-hmm. We also talked about Johann Camelio. He would have been the king of Hawaii. But instead of doing a rebellion, he decided to work with the U.S. and is actually the founder of Pearl Harbor as a connection to keep peace in Hawaii. And then the third person we talked about was Sacagawea, which most people know. As a 15-year-old, she led Lewis and Clark across foreign nations to the Pacific. All 3 had a dream. All 3 used their experience to build human bridges to connect 2 worlds.
Wonderful.
My unicorn horn thing, lightsaber thing, it represents growth.
Yay. Thank you.
We also were talking about powerful kids, and we read a book about this 14-year-old boy who built a windmill for his village that didn't have any electricity so that he could pump water out of the ground and water the plants so that they could eat.
Cool. So some of us know that it is birthday Sunday. And there's a whole bunch of stuff that we do on birthday Sunday, right, Seamus?
My unicorn horn.
And it matches your shirt.
It's going to be so hard to play with this on my finger, but I'm going to do it.
Bet you can. So if you were born in the month of March, please stand up, except Jackson because he has to play. If you're up here, you can just take a step forward. Wonderful. Not me. And at this point, what I'll ask is that everybody stand up. We'll do our benediction and sing our way out with the peace song. Please remember to leave the front rows for people who want prayer, and we'll take our conversation out of the room so that there's nice quiet for those who want prayer. Besides, I hear there's good things in the kitchen and in Sibley Hall. Something wonderful is happening through me right now. It is happening through my mind, my body, and my affairs.